Welcome back to building a zoo on the Omegaminecraft server. And this is me trying to figure out why I decided to tag a wild polar bear. Well, I wanted one, so I don't know how rare they were, so there was a brown one. Problem was, they hit pretty hard, so I'm just trying to kite it over onto the land, but this was my biggest problem. It just would not leave that patch of water. Half slabs all underneath it didn't work either. So the idea was cover it and then make it bounce more and push forward. So what do? Pour water above it and let it flow the direction you want it to be. So it lifts it up, and then you could put hole blocks in. Which, honestly, I didn't know if it was going to work. But that was kind of one of those guesses that just worked out. Because this bear hits incredibly hard. Now, I don't have a helmet on, but still, it hits hard. And I don't think I'm going to tame any of my animals. I might a few, but if you tame them, that means you have to basically keep them alive. If they're wild like this, I don't have to do anything besides put them in the exhibit, which is great for me. Because that's less like collecting I really have to do. And I can basically just work my way up. I can name tag them. Name tags are really cheap as a whole. But it worked out. Now I have a brown polar bear, which that means I'm going to have to get a regular bear as well. This stays here for a while, just to let you know. It stays here for a while. Now, this right here, this is a replay of me trying to build a little land up or basically block off next to my first two exhibits. This was strange to me more so because when I watched it, you can see my player. When it rendered, replay really doesn't work in this, whatever reason for this mod pack on the curseforge. It didn't give me my player, but I'm going to put it in there anyway for the sake of putting it in there. Typically, when I add land like this, that's a chunk that I kind of want to block off like an area and say this is inside, and then basically you can't really see too much past it. I usually go 2 to 3 blocks higher. After I finished that, I started laying down path. Now, it's easy to do the path first, like the path block, just because it's cheaper, and I really didn't have all the resources that I was considering using. So right now, it's just what I want to go with, except for these pesky ones. So I went mining, because I really need resources. I came across this abandoned mine shaft. I didn't expect to find any spawners. That was just a shot in the dark. I was still nervous, but I was hoping. So then it means I could just make a spawn, like a kind of a grinder or something, but oh well. The server's pretty well, like it's pretty new person friendly. There's a lot of opportunities you can get to gather things. The economy is very different because basically people want you to purchase from the store and things and use in-game money, which that's hit or miss for me. That's kind of a personal preference. I prefer just trading in between people, diamonds, that sort of thing. And if you want to use like in-game money for stuff, that's fine, but that's basically what it is. This mine shaft really wasn't too much, but I did collect a lot of resources. And after that, including some mining, I did some mining. We're going to break down some diamonds. I know people like to see diamonds, so that's why I just added this in here. I can't even remember how many blocks it was, but I did get chunks of diamonds, which was great, especially with a Fortune 3 pick. It's amazing. So I'm doing okay, especially if my friend decides to get on and use some. At least he has tools as well. But I needed a new sword, more so for looting, like for beef and leather, even string. So the first thing I enchant is a sword. I really got lucky with that. I thought I had to combine, didn't need to. And I also did a bow. That was a great enchant as well. Don't know what I need it for. Maybe want to go out, but I enchanted that as well. And XP is pretty easy. But I also need mending books. So I had to come here. I have zombies, but I have not cured them, and I just don't feel like doing it right now. Now, this is at the shopping district. There's so many things that are going on, but you can see the kind of commerce there is. I think it's okay. I prefer not like this to where I have an option to buy it off of somebody. But honestly, I was happy that these books were here, because there's a few things I wanted to get that I can't craft, and certain things I just didn't feel like going to get. The first thing, this place actually it's coming along. It looks really nice with all the variety that's actually here. First thing I wanted was quartz, though. The problem with that was out of stock. You can't see it, but it's in red right there in the chat. Out of stock. Out of stock. Out of stock. So I don't really know why somebody's selling bone blocks when you can just go to the XP farm and just get bones for free. And spider eyes, I believe, too. But either way, it's a nice little shop, but nothing I want. Then I wanted a net launcher. Pretty cheap, because you can't craft these. You cannot craft these. You can't craft the guns. So I'm here to buy one. Can't buy one. Why? Because they're out of stock as well, too. But I just gave up and then went home. I needed to, before that, I needed to repair all of my tools first. Sorry about that lag. I don't know what that was, honestly. But I went to, and there it is again. I don't know what it was. Something was happening. But after that, like after I got my stuff repaired with mending, I started to clear the space out. I added this more specifically. It's easy to see an end part of a build, but it's very hard to see where your kind of mind goes when it comes to such a big space, to visualize what you kind of want in the direction you want it. So basically, per scale, you'll see me taking away, and this is one thing I typically never do, is I am flattening out quite a big chunk. Why? Because I want the viewing angles to be pretty even. That's why. So once I have this space kind of opening, and I have to open up more, you can see there's already something naturally here, a bowl around that water. And that's kind of what I want to go around, is make that kind of bowl shape just wider. And with better tools, it makes something easier. Silk touch on grass blocks is amazing. If you didn't know that, it cuts them very, very fast. And of course, it doesn't have to be efficiency 5. It could be efficiency 3. I prefer at least 4 on the shovel. No more than 5's not necessary. It just takes more durability, but it's still pretty quick on 4. But after, you can see me starting to fill in spaces. And of course, I alter this some. When I think I'm happy with it, I start laying out the shape. And placing it like this, I don't want it to be too sharp on edges. That's why you see me doing certain parts like this. But I also want to be able to turn. That's why I'm pushing it back. I don't want it to be too narrow in certain spots at all. And this is basically how I end up building anything. Is I just, right now, my formula is to pick a block that's easy for me to get, honestly. Stone. Stone's easy for me to get. I have a great pickaxe. Amazing. But after I lay this out, there is so much more like that's to this sort of thing. And the biggest thing is vantage point for what it is. This here is kind of the walkway, and I need to build stone formations that come to the ground. There's no real rhyme or reason for this, except for I don't want it to be still chunky. Like thick, I want it to be kind of supportive on the top, more narrow on the bottom. It's still stone, so it works itself out. You can add so many other blocks to this sort of thing. And the more you do it, the more you'll know when it looks right to you. Because I will always start with whole blocks. Always just whole blocks. And if I feel like I need half slabs or a variation of other block, I will do that well after. Because touch-ups is so much easier to do in all this. And this went pretty quick because I actually had quite a bit of stone. But then you can see kind of the directions I'm going. It's going to wrap around this bowl, natural bowl. I didn't cut out the water anymore right there. But it cuts all the way around the water, which is a nice shape all the way around this part of the zoo right there. So the top, I did want a 3 wide walkway, more so for coming and going traffic sort of thing. Obviously, Minecraft, you can walk through other players, and that's not that big of a deal. But that's what I wanted. Eventually, I do change it to wood. I'm trying to remember when I decided that, because I don't remember. I kind of just, oh, I know when it was. I was doing some detailing around the half slabs I put on top of this stone, because the netting is so tall for the player that you really can't see much over it, and I wanted a clear view is why I picked it. So from here, I get distracted. Anytime I see some animal I don't think I have or I need, yeah, that I didn't catch that. It bit me. I just do this. It's what I end up doing, collecting them. And there's a lot of good stuff that animals that spawn here. I do a lot of things at night, and the problem with this is it's always raining in the biome I'm in, which with the shaders is nice. I so much will get frustrated with it, but everybody can't sleep. There's a certain amount of people that have to sleep, so I just carry a torch around, like 24/7 torch, lantern in my offhand. That's what I always end up doing now. But this is basically how I built most of it, was like that. So after that, that was from a stream. Hopefully it had the audio in there. If it didn't, I apologize. I bring up the wall from the 1, so total of 4, all the way around. All the way around. More so for you to kind of visually think of something not jumping out of the exhibits. Just 4. It's just still just stone. Just stone. And it's going to stay pretty much stone. But I also needed the rope fence, because that's really what I wanted, was a lot of it. I fortunately had a bunch of string, but also a bunch of iron as well, and a bunch of wood. These things are a pain to place. I am telling you that right now, because there's a top section on the same side you're pressing, and there's a bottom. You press the bottom for it to do like that. If you miss and click the top, it'll go upwards above that instead of what it needs to be. So after doing that, of course, since it's at night, the idea was to use a different lantern. So I'm putting some chains here and using a different style lantern, which is, of course, the fire one. Like one, there's a fire in it, which is really cool off the water. I don't know what it looks like with no shaders, because I have not used vanilla, just plain resource pack, since I started playing on here. But this seems really good with that reflection as well. And I'm going to do it all the way around. 2, I think I only do 2 different elevations, and you can see how, well, that's wonderful. It kind of just changes all the way around, but it does change your point of view on what you kind of see around, because I'm assuming that if somebody comes here to tour, it may not be during the day, since I spent a lot of I think I spent most of my time building at night here, especially this area anyway. These exhibits that are right here, I did pretty much at night with rain. Since there's really no mobs, it's fine. But after this, I'm happy with that. I start doing the detailing. Again, I start with whole blocks, because you're gonna see it. It's a pretty expansive place anyway. So there's no real need to do over the top everything. But Rocky Stone is what I picked. It's such a really, really nice block. It's pretty cheap to use. It's just stone, a stone block, and a cobblestone block. And the payout is pretty even regards to how much after you craft it you get. And it's really nice because it takes away some of the sharpness and smooths out the texture itself, not the color, but the texture of cobblestone without having it as bright as, let's say, andesite. And of course I didn't have much andesite, so I wasn't going to really use that anyway. Yeah, that's how I decide stuff, because I'm pretty lazy. But you can see it from here. You can see the sheer size. I honestly didn't expect to get this done. This, I thought, was going to be the end of the episode right here, because this has taken me a while to kind of just go through as a whole. I think the exhibit itself, just the shaping was pretty easy. It probably took me a couple hours. Whereas the detailing inside, I want to say took me 2.5, 3 hours to do all of them that are in there. There's still no animals in there. I'm not really worried about that right now. I am just trying to get the builds up. Animals is going to be fun. You kind of just mix and match in there, which I like. I just collect them in nets, which I can get plenty of nets. I still have to get cages and stuff for the bigger animals, but that's like exploration by itself at a different time, which is great. But after that, I just want to nail this down. And down here, I'm just trying to plan out spaces, because there's things you should see, like that's for the employees and then some for the visitors. That's if that makes sense. You always see areas that are like closed off, like employees only, and there's certain areas that you just can't go to. Well, I guess you could, but don't do that. It's coming along. I didn't expect to come up with a palette that I liked for the buildings themselves, like so quickly, because I didn't think I had an actual theme. But after that, like, it's just coming along. You can see it. And I tried to remember, I wanted to keep some natural, like, pale-looking grass. Since it's an actual plains, the natural grass color is going to be more diluted than, let's say, a deciduous forest, a dark oak forest, jungle biomes, which it goes really well. And I'm always going to use coarse dirt because it's still my favorite block ever. But you can see up here, like, the detail. There's not much to it. I try to keep it brown. And instead of using so many different blocks, I wanted it to pop some. And that's why I used diorite as that secondary half slab block in it. You can see it in there. It adds brightness to it. But as you're walking through, you can still see pretty much the whole exhibits, but the animals will still have some form of privacy in their areas, which I like. I picked this is just glass. The exhibit glass has a really gross texture in between the blocks, so I didn't really like that too much. I hope that you're enjoying what I'm doing right now, because I am, and hopefully next episode we have some tremendous progress done, but also something cool to show you.